Hello everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. My voice just did something weird. What was that? Maybe I have a frog in my throat. Anyways, carrying on. Welcome back to Tarot Memoirs. So in this week we are looking at strength. So strength is actually one of my birth cards and it is very near and dear to my heart. It is one of my favorite cards in the tarot when it's done right, according to my standards. At any rate, in Tarot Memoirs, what I typically do is I will share with you some excerpts from my 3 favorite tarot books, Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, Benebell Wen's Holistic Tarot, oh, heavy this one, and Melissa Sanova's Kitchen Table Tarot. So let's just get right into strength. Oh, and the last part, the whole reason it's called Tarot Memoirs, I could have mentioned that, is that I will share with you some personal connection that I have with the card. So ways that the energy of this card has shown up for me in my life day to day, and then usually I will share at least one really memorable moment from that card. So let's get right into 78 Degrees of Wisdom, shall we? Because I have highlighted some really, really good stuff. Now what's interesting is that, and I can't wait until I get a chance to dig into Benebell's new deck, the Spirit Keeper Tarot, and her book, the Book of Maps, because she speaks to this. I've just skimmed the very beginning of the book, and she does speak to this, but the tarot, some schools of thought see it divided into 3 sort of sets of 7. So the first dealing with sort of the first initial sort of mundane learning that we do. And then the second stage being more sort of psychological and spiritual, or psychological and emotional. And then the final being more spiritual, connecting with the divine and those stages of growth. So in strength, we're moving into the second stage. So we're moving into more of that deeper level. So we've covered like sort of the basic stuff. We've just culminated that first set of 7 with the Chariot card, which was that driving our will forward. So from the Fool to the Magician to the High Priestess, and sort of harnessing all of these energies to the point where we can actually make progress in our life. And now we move into strength. And so in Rachel, sorry, I'm bumping the camera. Don't do that, Lisa. Some of the things that stood out to me, this book is very well worn for me, and I've got lots marked, but I marked a few things that stood out to me from her description. And she has like several pages, Rachel Pollack does, in her book, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, for every major arcana card. Like, it's intense. But the pieces that stood out to me, firstly, the image suggests the energy of the conscious, released and calmed, tamed by the direction of conscious understanding. I really liked that way that that was worded. That felt very poignant to me. Strength allows the inner passions to emerge as the first step in going beyond the ego. On a very simple level, we can see the emergence of suppressed feelings in the person who allows him or herself to act childishly, to weep or scream. In short, to do all those things that previously seemed foolish or embarrassing. On a deeper level, the lion symbolizes the whole force of personality, usually smoothed over by the demands of civilized life. Strength releases this energy in order to use it as a kind of fuel, propelling us along the inner path of the hermit. This purpose can only be accomplished because the lion is tamed at the same time that it is released. Strength opens up the personality like Pandora opening her box. It does so, however, with a sense of peace, a love of life itself, and a great confidence in the final result. I really, really liked that. And this really speaks to my life, and this is one of my birth cards. I think I mentioned that at the very beginning. It's one of my birth cards, but one of the things that this really stands out to me is that I'll get into this, and oh my goodness, my camera fell. You know what, guys, we're just going to roll with it, because I don't really edit things out. So we're just going to fix it and keep on trucking. Sorry for all of the movement. Hopefully it will stay put. Stay. So anyway, I will get into all that personal stuff in a minute. I was about to side rail big time, but that part is really poignant for me personally. See, now my ankle's funny. I'm going to fix it. This is me being a perfectionist. I'm sorry. I'm going to be okay with it, though, because it's who I am. All right. Much better. Okay, so, let's not hold the book all the way up in front of my face, hey? So next, in readings, the card of strength indicates the ability to face life, and particularly Face life, and particularly some difficult problem or time of change, with hope and eagerness. It shows a person strong from within, experiencing life passionately, yet peacefully, without being controlled or carried away by those passions. Good, right? See, now I'm too far away. Look at me seriously obsessing right now. You guys get to totally see my real personality on these videos, because I don't dampen any of it for y'all, just so you know. All right. Strength reversed indicates, first of all, weakness. The courage to face life fails and the person feels overwhelmed and pessimistic. The passions become the enemy, threatening to destroy the conscious personality and the life it has built up for itself. I think that's really, really, really good. And yeah, it's gonna all make sense in a minute, but yeah, that really, really spoke to me. In Benebel's book, the pieces that I just threw my Rider-Waite-Smith card. I'm going to need a bloopers reel in the future, y'all, because I do some seriously weird stuff on my channel. All right, I'm back with my card. And I always drop stuff. It's not just you, Simon. Excuse me. Okay, here's what Benebel had to say that stood out to me. The Strength card is about domination over the seeker's fears. Yes. And I also see this lion, personally speaking, as representing sort of the shadow self or the unconscious, the things that we're not necessarily always wanting to deal with, but kind of have to deal with. So then she has a section on comparing, and she does some comparisons, I think, in every key, or at least every key so far. Key 7, the Chariot, is another card denoting strength and triumph. However, Key 7 is typically associated with the strength to master the world, the seeker's environment. Key 8, Strength, is associated with strength to master the self. Key 8 is about inner strength and courage. I love that. And then for the reversed, she has here, the seeker must be cautious that brute force is not used. The card in reverse could suggest over-reliance on the physical faculties rather than mental, emotional, intellectual, or spiritual. Yes, yes, yes. I don't see this kind of strength as physical at all. I see it very much as mental, emotional. So I really, really enjoyed that she has that in there. Let me put her bookmark back. In Kitchen Table Tarot, Melissa's action phrase, so she has this in every single one where she has a little phrase here, is I am graceful, which I really liked for strength. It wasn't like a force or a necessarily a strong word. It's a soft word, which is, I associate this kind of strength with softness. Also, I can't stop talking with my hands. I'm sorry. I'll try to be still. This card is about strength through gentleness, is what Melissa says. And she goes on, she has the same infinity symbol over her head as the Magician, which I had never actually noticed that until I read this. And every book, I think, mentioned this, but this was the one where I highlighted it. See? Talking with my hands. But the Magician also has that infinity symbol. What these two have in common is self-confidence and follow-through. And I had never really compared or associated the Magician with strength at all before, but it makes perfect sense. The Magician is the first card in the first set of 7 cards. And so strength, being the first card in the second set of 7, speaks to an evolved kind of strength, an evolved kind of power. So whereas the Magician is all about just manifesting and making things happen, strength is about mastering the self. So not just mastering the environment, not just using the tools to interact with the rest of the world, but using those same tools to master ourselves. That just came out of nowhere out of me, but it makes perfect sense as I read that passage. This card comes from a place of courage. We use it when we feel small or when we are afraid. Also true. So inverted. So she had a couple points here that I thought were really valid. She said, inverted, it's pretty conditional. Usually it's one of 3 things. You're sick or not mentally or emotionally strong enough to deal with the situation. Word. You're being a weenie and not even trying to deal with the situation. Word. Or you're being too strong and bullheaded. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yep. Like, I mean, all of those have shown up for me. So let's get into some card comparisons. So I will hold this one on this side, I think. Maybe that's what we'll do. And I will try to hold, yes. So this is the Osho Zen Tarot, and this is Courage. And I love this depiction of strength. Actually, you know what? I can only do one card at a time. I'm sorry. I keep trying and I keep failing. Okay, so here's what I really like about this card. This shows a flower or a plant that has worked its way up through the rock and has found a way to persevere. So perseverance is a word that always comes up for me when I look at this card. It really feels like it has overcome and made things happen, but from a place of like, you know what, I've got to work my way through all of this muck and all of this stuff that has been placed on top of me. This plant's not necessarily responsible for the stones that were built in its path, but it is responsible for finding a way to thrive or survive in that environment. And I think that that is what strength is for me personally. Really enjoy that depiction. And obviously it's the one I've been working with the longest. Marielle shows strength here as this lion, and this is going to sound some intense. I don't know how else to say it, so I'm just going to say it. But I see that she is, it's almost like she is, this lion is coming from deep within her, from inside. And I almost get the feeling that this lion is emerging from her womb space. And it's very soft and harmonic. Harmonized? Peace? There's harmony. I don't know the right use of that word in this context, but there is harmony here. There is a oneness. There is peace with this inner part of herself, this raw, primal part of herself. There is oneness and wholeness, and I see healing in this card, and there's just a lot to read here, and I really, really enjoy this depiction. I really love strength in the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Sorry if my image is blurry here. Hopefully it's showing up okay for you. But we see here a woman who is clearly at one with her wolf companion. And again, no complaints. This really depicts the image beautifully for me. The Anna shows a slightly different side, and typically I don't like seeing the lion or the creature in the strength card depicted as angry or furious, and yet this has strong meaning for me because a lot of what we're learning to control, the shadow side of ourselves, or those inner emotions that have been repressed or hidden, they're not always pretty, they're not always calm. Sometimes there is a bit of a struggle, but she's not using force here. As much as there's a chain and there's an idea of control here, she's not using force. There's no anger on her face. She's very peaceful and calm. Again, that's what I like to see. This is a sweet strength card. I mean, there's a lot to see here. I love that her companion is a faithful dog, and I love that there's all this fire and sort of passion around her and behind her. There's obviously a zest for life here that is showing through this image. I really enjoy this. Again, with the wolfies, I'm never going to be sad to see a wolf in the strength card, ever. And this one shows so much peace and almost this idea of having done journey work. And I see a physical representation or an image that represents shadow work here as well. So I really like that. I don't know why. Maybe the moon, the fact that they seem to be on a journey or a quest together. Yeah, I just see that there. So I have to talk about this card. So this is the Mythic Tarot. And this is the reason I had to get this is one of the main reasons I had to get the original Mythic Tarot. I had originally picked up the new Mythic from a bookstore in Seattle when I was with my sister. And the artwork on it was not my favorite style. It was a little bit flat for me, and the artwork in the original just has this sort of point, is it called pointillism? There's just a lot of shading and texture. I don't know if pointillism is quite right. But the other thing that really stood out to me was in the new Mythic, the lion is like being physically overpowered by Hercules, and in this version, the lion's face is peaceful, and I never realized how much that mattered to me until and that at least that it looked like it wasn't quite such a physical struggle. I didn't realize how important that was to me until I had a card that showed a struggle, and I was like, no, it shouldn't look like that, because the struggle is not a physical struggle. It's an emotional, mental struggle. And so I really don't want to see physical struggle depicted. Even if the lion is like looking angry, like we had with that previous card where we had the lion didn't look pleased, the power here is not physical dominance, and there's still some physical dominance showing here, I think because of the myth that this card is showing, but I don't want to see too much of that. So I have the original Mythic, and I got this a used copy. It's very well worn and very thin cardstock, and yeah, has a little smell. Not a major smell, but a little smell. So maybe some old incense or something. But still super glad I have that copy. In the Impressionist Tarot, we also see a kind of angryish lion, but the woman pictured here is not overpowering it physically. She's just petting it. And this has that energy almost of like, it's okay. Like, you're allowed to be frustrated or angry or worked up. It's fine. But we're going to work it out. I get that from this. The Deviant Moon, Borderless. So this shows, at first when I saw this, I was like, no, it shows that physical struggle. But then what I realized is that this dark creature in the back, this figure, is not necessarily physically overpowering the creature that it's with. In fact, if it was overpowering it, he might grab it around the waist or the neck. I guess there's a bit of a waist. The waist or the neck to overpower it. But instead, he's pried open its jaws and is looking right into it like, I'm not afraid of you. And there's a certain amount of confrontation, healthy confrontation that I see in this image. So yeah, I like that. This is just a beautiful card. This is Ciro Marchetti's Legacy of the Divine Tarot. And all these beasts around this figure and just the piece. What I really like is that it's as if she's touching the center or the crown chakra of each one, or the third eye chakra. I think it's crown. Yeah, it looks like crown of each one, and sort of bestowing peace and harmony and enlightenment onto each one is kind of what I see there. So that's interesting as a take. We have the lion here with the rose, and this works for me actually because I see the gentleness and I see the harmony and the peace here that I want to see in my strength card. So this works. I adore this one from Shadowscapes. It's got all of that calm, pure harmony, but the lion isn't totally, I'm like holding it up closer so I can see better in the preview, but he isn't totally like, he's not like super fierce, but he's still fierce. You know what I mean? Like he's still got power and rawness and primal energy to him. And she's like, it's okay. We're going to work together. We're going to look in the same direction. I really like that. And this one just feels delightfully pagan to me in all the wonderful ways. This is from the Druidcraft Tarot. So I enjoy this as well. The boar, it's good. Boars are very like chargy, powerful creatures, and I get that. See, I'm waving the card. I'm so sorry. Maybe eventually I'll stop. No promises. But I do really, really enjoy this. See, I just did it again. I can't stop. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside and pull up my notes so that I can remind myself what my stories were. So for strength. Okay, so here's the thing. One of the things that stood out to me when I was looking in the meanings from the different books was this idea of repression, or this idea that we have parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily show other people. That bit from Rachel Pollack's book where she talked about behavior that might be viewed as foolish or childish, and the ways that we repress that. The ways that we repress our more difficult emotions or our bigger emotions. Sometimes we think that it's our job to be sort of calm and even all of the time, and we don't want to let all of that other stuff show. But the reality is that that's where all of our power and our realness and our vulnerability and our strength really lies, is in the realness of who we really are. And so for me, the way that this card shows up on a day-to-day basis is the way that I consciously embody being fully and completely myself. The way that I consciously make the decision that I'm not going to be ashamed of the fact that I have Care Bear on my bed right now, and you know, these kinds of things where I step fully into the light of who I am without holding that back. And then on a deeper level, there's the ways that I have really needed to confront my own emotion and allow them to exist. I spent a lot of years repressing emotion, particularly the bigger ones, and particularly the ones that could be perceived as negative. So anger, frustration, all of that kind of stuff I really, really repressed. And so there came a point where I really needed to let that stuff show. And there's been a process for me in learning how to do that in a balanced way, to let them out without letting them take over. And that for me is totally what the Strength card depicts. So that is how it shows up for me.
Sorry, I don't understand.
My Google just scared the crap out of me. I'm totally going to leave it in the video. I must have just said the call word. I'm not going to do it again. But whatever I just said woke it up, and it talked to me, and I wasn't expecting it, and there was a voice, and I totally jumped out of my skin. Peggy is going to laugh her butt off when she sees this video. I will totally leave it. I'm such a jumpy person. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Whew. Okay, my heart is like racing. Okay, so basically what I wrote down was allowing myself to feel emotion is sort of the day-to-day way that the Strength card shows up when I allow that to happen. For Shadow, Where this gets me in trouble is that because in some ways learning to express and experience my emotions is still relatively new in the grand span of my lifetime, sometimes it gets the better of me. And this can happen in a number of ways. So certain feelings like fear, separation anxiety, things like that can take over in a difficult moment or in a difficult conversation, an important conversation, and suddenly that takes over, and it can really trigger some self-sabotaging kind of behavior. The stuff where I'm not at my best, the stuff where my shadow self wins, and I'm left going, I don't know how to rein it in now, it's out. It's like I've let this big feeling out of the bottle and now I can't put it back in. And when I say that, I want to be very clear that I don't think you should ever be putting your feelings in a bottle or trying to stuff them back in. But that's the visual that I worked with for decades, and so it's really hard for me still sometimes to figure out a different image. But when I have actively practiced letting myself feel an emotion and really allowed myself to be in it without trying to control it or fix it or make it go away, usually I find that those intense emotions, even and maybe even especially the difficult ones, they pass really quite quickly in the span of time that you would think. Like they don't grip hold of you except when you're trying to make them go away, when you're trying to shove them down or push them out. And that's when I've had the hardest time with that. Probably the moment, this is going to be such a silly story, but the story that I thought of about a moment when I really let my fear go, let myself step into the full reality of who I truly am, and it ended up being a really empowering experience, was, I think it was last Christmas, it might have been the Christmas before. Peggy had got me, I think Peggy and Steve might have together gone in on it, I don't know, but one of my Christmas presents was a snowman onesie, and you will probably see this at some point, maybe, we'll see. It was a snowman onesie, and I loved the fact that she got this for me. It was super cute and cuddly and perfect for winter, and I was just really excited to have it. And I put it on, and I don't know what happened. Peggy was filming me, we were being really goofy, I was like totally being silly and sort of in my like fully embracing my inner child kind of moment, and she's like, this is fantastic, I'm totally gonna put this on Facebook. And I was like, oh, but you can't. And I had this moment where I wanted it to all go away right away, like, no, that's too real, too much, you know, people will think it's dumb and I'm childish, and all this kind of stuff bubbled up for me. And this does happen to me every once in a while, in spite of the fact that anybody who knows me well knows I am usually really in touch with my inner child, but I was really struggling. So at any rate, I really had to sit with it and think about how I felt. And when I did, I eventually decided to put the video up myself. And I did. And I also ended up posting a picture to my yoga teacher Instagram feed showing me in this onesie working on a project. And it turned out to be this really empowering experience where I stepped fully into the space of being exactly who I am without apology. And I got comments from people about how things like that I do and that I post in a public way, the way that I fully step into who I am, gives them permission to do the same. And how empowering and amazing is that? So it really taught me that we all have such an impact on others when we step into the full light of who we really, really are. And that, to me, again, that's totally what strength is for me. Strength is that ability to own your whole self without shame, or when you feel shame, to move through it in a loving and compassionate way with yourself and not let it necessarily prevent you from being authentic. And I say that carefully because, again, when this kind of stuff comes up, sometimes people feel like, well, if I don't step fully into the light of who I am in every situation, am I being inauthentic? No, of course not. It's a personal journey for all of us, and we're not all in the space where we can do that, and it's not always, I mean, it's kind of rose-colored glasses of me to say, oh, sure, just be yourself no matter what, because sometimes we have to, like, put on a face to handle a situation. Sometimes that's a coping mechanism. But for me in my life, it has been an empowering, personally empowering practice to step fully into who I am and to do it without shame or fear. So that is definitely how strength shows up for me in my life, and there's a lot more there too. And I could talk about this card all day because it's one of my very favorite cards, but I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope that wherever you are, you have a wonderful day, evening. Actually, no, don't go away. Don't go away. I almost forgot. If you're engaging with this, because I hope you do, it's been really, really powerful for me personally. If you're engaging with this, you're welcome to always make a video response if you want to talk about you know, your experiences with the cards that I bring up in this series, and you're welcome to do it anytime. It doesn't matter when I put the video up. If you find this video a year from now and want to make a video about what strength means to you and tag it Tarot Memoirs, that's amazing. Please do. But if you want to do this in a more private way, you can join the discussion over in the Facebook group, Supportive Tarot. I totally had a mind there. But yes, the Supportive Tarot Facebook group, you can chat with us there. You can leave a comment down below if there's something that you want to share. But of course, if you want to dive into this in a more personal and private way, which I completely understand, I like to do a few or share a few writing prompts from the book Journaling the Tarot, A Little Book of Big Questions by Andy Matzner. And I have a few here that I've selected for the Strength card that if you want to do some personal journey work, you are more than welcome to do that as well. So the first question is this: how are you currently being called upon to show courage? The second question: what is a difficult emotion you have been struggling with? How can you best honor it so that it does not destroy you? The third question: what are you hiding and why? And the fourth question: what is the source of your power? So thinking about those and considering how or if you want to engage with this series in your own way, on your own, please consider that if nothing else, just think about it. Think about how strength has shown up for you in your life, how this archetype has been present for you. And, you know, if nothing else, that will deepen your relationship with the cards. So thank you so much for joining me. I really, really enjoy doing this series. I enjoy that there are people out there that are also enjoying this series. And I look forward to talking to you again next week when we will be diving into the Hermit. So I hope you have a wonderful day, night, evening, whatever you are experiencing right now when you're watching this video. And I will talk to you all again very, very soon.